There is generally a feeling like this AI system has an outward looking, like the way you are, like sitting with a good friend, looking up at the stars, like asking podhead like questions about the universe, wondering what it's all about, the curiosity you talk about. There's a sense, no matter how mundane the question I ask it, there's a sense of cosmic grandeur to the whole thing. I wish, first of all, I wish everything in life had a fun mode. Interacting with a large language model. I'm not sure exactly what it is because I've only had a little bit of time to play with it, but it just makes it more interesting, more vibrant to interact with the system.
Um, our our AI Grok is modeled after the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is one of my favorite books. It's a book on philosophy disguised as a book on humor. And I would say that forms the basis of my philosophy, which is that we don't know the meaning of life, but the more we can expand the scope and scale of consciousness, digital and biological, the more we're able to understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe. And at one point he called me a speciesist for being pro-human. And I'm like, well, what team are you on, Larry? It's on Team Robot. And I'm like, okay, so at the time, Google had acquired DeepMind. They had probably 2/3 of all AI research, probably 2/3 of all the AI researchers in the world. They had basically infinite money and compute. And the guy in charge, Larry Page, did not care about safety and even yelled at me, and called me a speciesist as being pro-human.
So I don't know if you know this about humans. They can change their mind, and maybe you and Larry Page can be friends once more.
I'd like to be friends with Larry again.
What do you get from video games in general? Is there for you personally?
I mean, I don't know if it calms my mind. I mean, you sort of killing the demons in a video game calms the demons in my mind. Yeah, if you play a tough video game, you can get into like a state of flow, which is very enjoyable. But admittedly, it needs to be not too easy, not too hard, kind of in the Goldilocks zone. And I guess you generally want to feel like you're progressing in the game. So a good video, and there's also beautiful art, engaging storylines, and it's like an amazing puzzle to solve, I think. Well, I mean, I've been pushing for some kind of regulatory oversight for a long time. I think it would be wise for us to have at least an objective third party who can be like a referee that can go in and understand what the various leading players are doing with AI. And even if there's no enforcement ability, they can at least voice concerns publicly. Jeff Hinton, for example, left Google and he voiced strong concerns, but now he's not at Google anymore. So who's going to voice the concerns? So I think there's, Tesla gets a lot of regulatory oversight on the automotive front. Now we have a situation in the case of China where the economy is likely to be 2, perhaps 3 times larger than that of the U.S.
Intermixing of cultures, understanding. There does seem to be a giant cultural gap in understanding of each other. And you're an interesting case study because you are an American. Obviously, you've done a lot of incredible manufacture here in the United States, but you also work with China.
I've spent a lot of time in China and met with the leadership many times.
Maybe a good question to ask is, what are some things about China that people don't understand, positive, just in the culture? What's some interesting things that you've learned about the Chinese?
Well, the sheer number of really smart, hardworking people in China is incredible. Yes.
So, that's a view that God is like the universe and reveals himself through the laws of physics, or as Einstein said, through the lawful harmony of the world.
Yeah, I would agree that God of the simulator or whatever, the supreme being or beings, reveal themselves through the physics. They're creators of this existence. And it's incumbent upon us to try to understand more about this wondrous creation. There may not be a master plan in the sense, so there's maybe an interesting answer to the question of determinism versus free will is that if we are in a simulation, the reason that these higher beings would hold a simulation is to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, they don't know what happens. I gave a speech for the sort of world gathering of utility companies, electricity companies. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, you really need to prepare for a tripling of electricity demand. Because all transport is going to go electric, with the ironic exception of rockets, and heating will also go electric. So energy usage right now is roughly 1/3, in very rough terms, 1/3 electricity, 1/3 transport, 1/3 heating. And so, in order for everything to go sustainable, to go electric, you need to triple electricity output. So if we do not become multiplanetary and ultimately go beyond our solar system, annihilation of all life on Earth is a certainty. A certainty. And it could be as little as, on the galactic timescale, 500 million years. It's a long time by human standards, but that's only 10% longer than Earth has been around at all. Mm-hmm. So if life had taken 10% longer to evolve on Earth, it wouldn't exist at all.
Oh.
Yes.
It seems like becoming multiplanetary is almost inevitable, unless we destroy. How difficult is the problem of, in this particular case, maximizing the useful productivity per watt for training neural nets? Like, this seems to be really where the big problem we're facing that needs to be solved is how to use the power efficiently. Like, what you've learned so far about applying this physics, first principle reasoning in this domain, how difficult is this problem?
It will get solved. It's just a question of how long it takes to solve it. The United States has been the most powerful economic engine in the world longer than anyone's been alive. And the foundation of war is economics. So now we have a situation, in the case of China, where the economy is likely to be 2, perhaps 3 times larger than that of the U.S. So imagine you're the biggest kid on the block for as long as anyone can remember, and suddenly a kid comes along who's twice your size.